Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some places it's tomorrow, depending on your time zones. But it is great to see you. Everett O'Keefe here with Ignite Press. And today we have a book launch with a wonderful author. Farah Harris is here, and I'm going to be interviewing her about her book, The Color of Emotional Intelligence, Elevating Our Self and Social Awareness to Address Inequities. This is exciting. We're really jazzed about this. Now, before we jump into the interview, Ignite Press is here. We exist in order to help people get their messages out to the world, quite literally, the world. We know that today in this book launch, we've got sales happening in the US, in Canada, and Australia, and the Netherlands, and more UK and others. And it is an exciting time. And if you have a book message that you want to get out to the world, reach out to us. Let's talk. And you can also always go to our website and schedule a book consultation at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. So let's get to the fun. Farah, would you join us here? How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, Everett?
I'm doing great. This is a crazy day. In fact, actually, you've been having a crazy week as a bunch of people have been buying the book early.
Yes, yes. People are really excited, and I'm excited that they're excited.
It's terrific. We normally are hoping that everyone will save their buying mojo until launch day, but your team just could not resist. They just jumped in whole hog and started sharing your book and talking about it, which is good. That bodes really, really well for you.
Yes, it does.
Well, Farah, before we get into this wonderful book, tell us about you. Tell us about your background and what you do.
Sure. So, by trade, I'm a psychotherapist. I've been a psychotherapist for over 12 years, and I'm also a workplace belonging and well-being expert. I'm the founder and CEO of Working Well Daily, a company that addresses workplace belonging and well-being from a psychosocial and emotional intelligence lens. So, I love all things EQ, which is why I wrote the book. And I am also the mom of three littles and the partner and wife of one of my best friends. And we have been married for going on 18 years next month and 22 years of dating. And I'm going to stick beside him. We're going to ride this out. And yeah, that's the professional and kind of the personal side of me.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'm so glad to hear the longevity in your relationship and the four young kids that.
Oh, no, three.
Oh,
Unless
three. I'm
you're
sorry.
counting this book as a kid, I'll
Oh,
take that.
you know
Trust
what?
me,
Fair
the
enough.
third one was a surprise.
Okay. Yeah. Three that you have to feed,
Yes,
and but four that you've given birth to, perhaps.
yes. The fourth will feed the three.
Yeah. Well, that would be, yeah. So, well, this is terrific. Now, you've written the book about emotional intelligence. Could you give, for those of us who don't know what that means, give us a working definition of that so we better understand it?
Sure. So I like to simplify it and say that emotional intelligence is being able to be in tune with your emotions, be able to name them, being comfortable with them, and being able to be aware of the emotions of others. And so I say it's being able to know yourself and to read the room at the same time. It's a skill set that we all need, it's a life skill. And within it, there are four competencies. Sometimes there's a little bit more, but the four main ones is self-awareness, which is being able to recognize how you're feeling, what you're thinking in the moment, and then self-management or self-control, the regulation. I like to call it the check yourself before you wreck yourself part of emotional intelligence, and that's just being able to keep yourself calm and regulated while you're expressing and experiencing emotions. And then there's social awareness, which is again reading the room, empathizing, trying to see the other person's perspective, and relationship management, where we're able to be effective communicators, minimize conflict, that we can inspire and be motivational to those that we are in relationship with without being manipulative. So that's the gist of what EQ, our emotional quotient, is.
Okay, that was a wonderful explanation. And I think that's going to also stick with me, the check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes. So before you press send on that email, press pause,
Or
practice that
before
pause.
or before you open your mouth when you're married.
Yeah, yes, that
Right.
too.
I mean, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes.
I
Count to
could have used
3.
that. I could have used
Yes.
that early on in my marriage instead of 30 years later. So, yeah. Um, so this is obviously a topic that you're very passionate about. This is a topic that you have written about, you speak about, you consult and train um, on this topic. And I'm grateful that you're doing this and that you've put this book together. Now, in The Color of Emotional Intelligence, you talk about elevating self and social awareness to address inequities.
Mhm.
So, I gather it's about the things you're doing for yourself, but also things for society. It's not.
Yes.
It's one and both, right? Yeah. Can you tell us what are some of the key points that you'd like to share from your book that you think would be great to have out there, uh, to the world and to your audience?
Yeah, as I said, emotional intelligence is a life skill. I know we often talk about it, especially in the workplace, as a soft skill, but there's nothing soft about emotional intelligence. I call it a strength skill because it does take strength to be in control of your emotions, to not curse somebody out, to not tell off the kids, to not lose it. But when I say that it's important for us to elevate our self and social awareness, it's because we're not living in silos. We're sharing the world with other people. And sometimes we can be so self-centered, not self-aware, but self-centered, that we're not seeing really how we are showing up to others and how other people are experiencing not just us, but the world around them. And so there are many times we'll walk into a room, and if we're not paying attention, there are things that are lacking. There are things that are needed for others, and if we walk in with some level of privilege or opportunity, or if we're just part of the dominant group, we will miss what is lacking and we will miss opportunities to serve others well so that they can also be successful, that they can also be well in those spaces. And so elevating our EQ, in particular our self and social awareness, is so important so that we're able to be better versions of ourselves, but not just that, that we can allow other people to bring their best selves too.
Okay. Excellent. And as we're writing or as you're speaking, by the way, people are putting in the chat log, I got my copy and I'm so excited. And
Yay!
also, Ileana said it really takes a lot of strength to do what you're talking about doing. I like the way that you pointed out the difference not like self-aware versus self-centered,
Mhm.
because I think a lot of times people use self-awareness as an excuse or a rationalization to be self-centered. So
Ooh, Everett.
appreciate you pointing out that difference, because we do that, right? It's like, oh, this is just me. I'm just being true to myself, or something along those lines.
Yes, and it's an excuse.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. By the way, Spring says definitely got my copy. So, in fact, while we're on this topic, I should also point this out, that if you're watching this, you can pick up your copy of The Color of Emotional Intelligence at Amazon today. The Kindle right now is at 99 cents. That's a limited time launch special. So I would definitely encourage you to pick up that Kindle version. The paperback is also there. And just keep in mind, if Kindle is not something you typically use, you need to know that there is a Kindle app on your smartphone. There is a Kindle app on every tablet. And there are also Kindle apps that you can install on every Mac and Windows PC. So in addition to, of course, Kindle devices that are made to. So you can definitely pick up that Kindle. And this is a book that you're going to want to share. You're going to want to get this book for other people as well. It'll really make a terrific gift, potentially a life-changing gift. So highly recommend that. Now,
Yes.
Farah, what was your inspiration for writing this book? Like, what made you go, okay, I got to finally do this. I got to finally write this book.
Yeah, it wasn't really like that. It wasn't I finally need to write this book. It was similar to many things in my life that, I was a reluctant entrepreneur, I was a reluctant leader, and I could be honest, I've been a reluctant author. So it was the situation where, in 2020, our lives changed, with COVID, with the social unrest, with the murder of George Floyd. So many things were happening, and it pivoted my business. And so I was being asked to speak at organizations about, self-care and wellness, and really being asked to speak to a lot of the Black employees and hold space and listening sessions for them. And I was like, okay, but there's something missing here, because not only are we going through this pandemic, we're experiencing a lot of grief. We're experiencing a lot of change. Companies were going through shifts of layoffs. And I said, well, who's communicating emotional intelligence? That we need the skill set to really be agile and to be resilient with all the changes. And if I'm going to speak to this particular group of employees, your Black employees, I want them to understand also how they are using their emotional intelligence in a unique way for survival, not necessarily for their own self-care and well-being. Within the Black community, there's a thing called code switching, that there's ways of showing up as I say in my book, dysfunctional versions of themselves to create functional relationships in these dominantly white spaces. But I also recognize it was broader than that. It was anybody that was historically marginalized, whether it's because of their sexual orientation, their gender, their disability. And we are all kind of hiding and masking and code switching in certain ways. And it became like one of our most sought after talks and keynotes and trainings. And I said, well, I've already got the training down. I think this is probably a book. And so I decided I'll make this training into a book. And hence, here we are today.
All right. Now, on that same topic, while we're at it, who did you write it for? Like, what was the target market you had in mind? People that you wanted to share this wisdom with?
Yeah. So I state in my dedication that I've written this book and dedicated this book to those who've been intentionally or unintentionally pushed to the margins. I've written this book for the leaders who recognize that the landscape has changed and they want to show up better as people managers, as people leaders, to be more aware of how their team members are experiencing the workplace. I wrote this for those tired and exhausted D&I practitioners who are like, I keep saying this and it seems like y'all ain't listening. So here, read this book and maybe you will hear me a little bit more. And then finally, I've written this book for anyone who wants to be and do and live better and show up as their best selves to create the world that they want to live in, a better world than what they are seeing right now.
Now, we've got some questions coming in. If you don't mind, I'm going to share some of them with you. Zelda asked, what are some self-care strategies for handling systemic stressors? Man,
Ooh,
Zelda went
okay.
right to it. Holy
Zelda, with the heavy question.
Yeah, she didn't throw you any puffballs there.
No, she didn't. She didn't. So I actually have a whole chapter on self-care for historically and systemically marginalized folks. And so a few things that I would suggest is, one, being able to create community and be around those who celebrate your culture, your ethnicity, the things that make you unique. Oftentimes we're seeing our ethnicity or our culture demeaned in the social space. And so I think it's so important for us to recognize through documentaries or movies, TV shows, music, to take those times to celebrate who you are. Another thing that I say is just say no. No to be asked, when you're asked to be on like a D&I task force, like you don't have that experience, you don't have that background. Just because you have maybe the lived experience of some type of marginalized group doesn't mean that you have the professional experience and the education to teach and to learn. A phrase that I say in the book is that it's hard to be the advocate and the abused. And so it takes a special type of person to really get into the trenches to do this D&I. And when I say D&I, I'm talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And then, I want others to also not internalize an external narrative. There are so many things that are said about the disability community, the queer community, the Black community, women, and those messages don't serve us well. So to make sure to have these boundaries, these emotional and listening boundaries in place so that you're not internalizing those things that are not serving you well. Those are just a few.
Wow, you handled that really, really well.
I told you a whole chapter.
Still, I'm impressed because sometimes I'll be honest, we write our books and we have things in it, and all the wisdom was in our head while we were writing that section, and then it leaves us somewhere, and we have to get it back sometimes. So
Yeah.
you did absolutely terrific. Oh, and by the way, Zelda said thank you for your answer with that.
You're welcome, Zelda.
I've got another question for you. So in your book, you talk about how self-awareness is the key to improving your traits or tendencies. In fact, you mentioned that people often use it as an excuse for their flaws or bad awareness. I guess it's kind of what we were touching on. How does self-management prevent and address those behaviors? And how does it help us avoid those pitfalls?
That's a good question. Before I go to the self-management, back to the self-awareness, I say that part of becoming more self-aware requires you to have feedback. Not everybody likes that F word, especially when it comes with constructive criticism. We love feedback when it's praised. Yeah, you did amazing. I love how you did this and you did that. But then when it's something else, it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily want that. And so for us to not be self-centered, for us to not give ourselves a pass, I've always been this way. Well, I'm hot-tempered. Well, because you owe it to yourself and everybody else to do better and to be better. And so the self-regulation or self-management part is saying, okay, I've named this emotion, but I have to understand why I have this feeling. And so taking that moment to practice the pause and to say, okay, I'm angry, but it's because I'm actually hangry. I'm hungry and angry. I'm irritable. And so if I know that I just need to eat something and eat something healthy, right? That's life-giving, then it will actually curb this emotion. Because I also say that, emotions are fleeting. They're not they're not static. They don't stay. We can have one feeling one moment and another feeling the next. So we really want to make sure that we are taking time to regulate ourselves in a way that's healthy, because some of us do regulate, but we regulate through maybe smoking or drinking or eating unhealthy things. We want to find ways that actually provide something that allows us to not get into a more difficult situation or worsen the situation. Maybe we have a couple of drinks and we feel good in the moment, but then the problems are still there and we haven't really addressed the emotion. We've kind of masked it and self-medicated it. So we have to be careful with that. And I have a chapter, I can't remember, it's chapter 3, that's called Walk the Dog. And that really teaches, it's a metaphor of how we can manage our emotions well. So for those who are dog owners, you understand what I'm talking about, that we want to make sure that the dog is not ahead of us and we don't want the dog behind us. We want it locked in step. A good trained dog walks with us that way. It's the same thing with our emotions. We don't want to be having our emotions guide us, lead us, control us, but we also don't want to be passive or passive aggressive with having our emotions behind us in real time going, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm excited, I'm frustrated, I'm afraid. Once we can name it, it really allows us to kind of almost pull some of the sting from the emotion and being able to recognize the narrative, the trigger behind it. Oh man, I felt this way before. Or, oh, I understand that I'm upset because someone, was speaking over me in a meeting, that kind of a thing. So it's really practicing that awareness to name the emotion, recognize how it feels in your body. But then after that, being able to go, because I feel this way, I need to understand why. And that's that understanding why that helps us to regulate so that we don't react, but that we can respond to the situation.
Okay. This is wonderful. In fact, I want to share this comment with you from Dory.
Sure.
She says, "Congratulations. All of this is so timely. Wow. It's hard to be the advocate and the abused. Sums up my recent work experiences.
Mm.
Looking forward to reading your wonderful book." Go ill. What is ill?
We both went to the University of Illinois in Champaign.
Aha. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't want to guess. I would have just embarrassed myself. And I loved it that this LinkedIn user, I don't know who it is, says that you are the EQ guru. So I love that.
I try.
As a,
Practicing it every day.
as a reminder for everybody, they can pick up the Color of Emotional Intelligence at Amazon today. The Kindle's at a 99-cent launch special right now, and you can pick that up, or the paperback as well. And in fact, I will go ahead and put the link in the chat log right now, so that make it even easier for people. So let me take that off the screen. Okay, so you wrote the book. You're describing it as your fourth child, and I do understand that it can be a bit of it's a labor. There's no doubt, but hopefully a joyful one. Hopefully, I've not given birth, but I've witnessed it 3 times, and I have observed the challenges of it. But I also observe the challenges of when the labor is done. It's like, it's all worth it. It's like, oh my goodness, look at this child. I can't believe I have this child. And here your book is. You're staring at your child, and it is now out to the world. I mean, that's the crazy thing. The baby at home, you get to coddle for a while before it sees the world, and the world sees it, but not so with a book. Was there a section of the process? Was there a chapter, for instance, in the book that kind of wrote itself, like a story or a section that just kind of flowed out of you as you were writing the book? If you don't remember a specific one, it's okay.
Yeah, I would think what I actually just shared, the walk the dog chapter, just because I've shared the story so many times, I've given the metaphor so much, it's in all my trainings. So sections, I can't say the whole chapter, but sections of that chapter was just easier to flow. And I can't really say that there has been a whole chapter that was just it was not easy. But there were paragraphs that I remember, like after writing a paragraph, going like, "Ooh, that was good. That felt good to do." And it was definitely labor, pockets of joy, and it wasn't always easy, but I had to practice my own EQ while writing a book on emotional intelligence. So even for 5 months, I actually did not write because I had experienced maternal burnout and book writing burnout. And I said I did not want to deliver a baby or deliver a book that was burnt and crispy because I was burnt out. I wanted it to come from a place of joy, a place of authenticity, and a place of ease. And so I had to just trust the timing, and I had to trust the pacing. Again, to not write from a reactor, from a point of being very reactive, but to respond to what I was feeling and what was being downloaded in me, so I can share with the readers in my most authentic voice.
Now, it's interesting because Charlene literally just wrote this. I'm so looking forward to diving into the book. What are some of the ways you took care of yourself while writing?
Yeah. I had to just stop, to be honest. Or literally, I remember I had a goal of finishing the book in 2022 on my mom's birthday, April 22nd. And by April 19th, I was like, this is not happening. This is so not happening. And I just said I had to take a break. And in that break, I actually went through the encouragement of my dear friend, Sarah, to get evaluated for ADHD. And so I got a late diagnosis of ADHD last summer, and it just made things so much more clear for me. Again, this was a way of feedback. So it allows me to be more self aware, recognizing that I'm neurodivergent and that there are moments of hyperfocus and there's moments of ADHD paralysis. So I had to really ask myself in real time, what am I feeling? What do I need? What am I feeling? What do I need? And sometimes what I needed was to not write at all.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that what you're speaking is real wisdom for people, because they do often, especially with books, they'll set themselves a deadline, and the process of writing a book can be a rather amorphous task. It tends to grow. Like, this section you thought was going to be really easy becomes hard. This section that you thought would be really hard writes itself. You just have a hard time with that, and deadlines sometimes make it a real challenge, you know. So now, on you getting some other really great comments here, I was going to share. Ileana says, thanks for taking the time to write it. You really needed this, and it's great that you practice what you preach. Valerie, so looking to reading the book. Congrats on the accomplishment. Getting my copy now. My goodness, these just keep coming. A superpower and a curse at times. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And how great it is that you're modeling what you're doing here.
You know what? I am the eldest child of Alex and Marie Claude, who are two people who have taught me and my siblings so much about integrity. And so we can't just talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. And so and I even say this to my therapy clients. I said, you know, you trusting me to be your therapist keeps me accountable. And so in writing this book, I cannot share it with the world and not practice it myself. So thanks, Mom and Dad, for teaching me integrity and instilling that in me.
Man, so I was gonna ask you. So in regards to the book, it's been a challenge. You set yourself some deadlines. The deadlines pan out. We have this this truism about book publishing. If you are going to write a book, life will intervene somewhere. Life will intervene. It's great that you took the time to do it. I think it's one of the advantages of our publishing model is that flexibility exists when authors engage with us. Like, we'll just do it at your pace. It's fine. And if what you thought was going to be, oh, I'm going to have it to you, and we hear this quite frequently, right? Oh, what's today's May 30th? They'll go, I'm going to have it to you June 7th. I'm going to have it to you June 7th. I'm almost done. And then they've discovered they need to add some other chapters, or they got to review, or they've had some of their test readers respond with things that they want to address. It just kind of grows. So when did you start writing?
Oh, I want to say it was summer of 2021. So it's almost 2 years. And I started working with my book coach. Shout out to Kathy Fayak.
Yay, Kathy.
So yay, Kathy. So I started, I want to say midsummer. And the goal was 6 months. I can do this in 6 months, completely forgetting that, I'm over two businesses and three children. And then, like you said, life. And so a lot of lifing was happening. And so I had multiple deadlines. It just kept moving.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you, thank you so much for the time that you've devoted to it. Thanks for creating a wonderful book. I do want to let everyone know how to access you and your business, and if they want to engage you for speaking and coaching and all of that. And I understand that's at workingwelldaily.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Let me get that in there. So fantastic. Thank you again for your time, Farah. Congrats on your book. And is there anything else you would like to leave everyone with before we sign out?
If anything from our conversation today, I really hope all of the listeners and watchers are giving themselves grace. Cause life be lifing. Yes, Spring. Cause life be
Life be
lifing.
lifing.
We need to give ourselves grace because we're probably doing more than we believe that we are. And I say that we want to pour from our overflow, not from our reserves. And so do what you can today to practice your own EQ, elevate your own EQ, so that you can ask yourself, what am I feeling? What do I need? So that you can be well, so that you can be well for everyone else.
All right. So thank you so much again, Farah, for joining us. For everyone else, again, you can pick up your copy of The Color of Emotional Intelligence on Amazon today, and go grab your copy now for 99 cents. Thank you again for joining us. And if ever we can be a help for you here at Ignite Press, just reach out. You can also schedule a call directly through our website at ignitepress.us, where we would be happy to talk about your book and your message. So thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see you soon.